Good evening. Okay, so I'm going to give it a couple of minutes, see who hops on. I'm also going to take a moment to share, and feel free to share this as well. Let's see here. So I'm going to share it to, let's see here. Okay. Okay, that's done. Awesome. Welcome. Hey guys. Hey Michelle. Hey Amanda. All right, so I just went ahead and shared it. I think it should, I'm going to share it on my personal page too, just to make sure. Share it in my newsfeed. We're going to share it now. Okay. Right on, right on. Okay. I think we're ready to roll. Let's rock. Okay. So please feel free to share this. All you have to do if you're live, there's this little, where there's this little red tag right here. Then you know that you are here with me live. If you don't see that little red tag, then that means that you are watching the replay, and just, hit the hashtag replay. So, welcome and thank you for, coming on this evening. Evenings are not always the best for me, but tonight I thought, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and jump on, and, I was just kind of guided. I always just kind of lead in that direction. So before I get started, please let me know that you can see me okay and that you can hear me okay. I'm actually using, the funny thing is my son is always a little bit more ahead of the game than I am with some of the electronic stuff. So I'm using his blue, it's called a Blue Snowball microphone. And what I have found that when I do use that it is, it sounds like I'm closer to you. So especially if you are somebody that just listens to my lives, through the replay and such, great, thank you. That it just gives that better sound quality. I know some people that you do podcasts, which eventually I would like to start doing as well. I'll be using something like that. So anyway, just a little tidbit of information. So here we are, live number 1 out of 15. So this is going to be really, really awesome. My part of my mission is to teach you. So the more educated that you are, the more compliant that you will be when it comes to making changes in your life. So I thought, well, how suiting will this be for me to talk about, which is one of the big topics that I cover with my clients, which is the emotional cycle of change. Now, this is something that I had learned through reading, or rather listening to, the 12-week year. Now, if you haven't read or heard of, look into the 12-week year. The whole concept of the 12-week year is, at the end of the day, urgency. It's about taking action, period. And that's what we need to do at all times, is take mad action. And I'm not saying that you have to work harder or do more in order for things to work or for you to succeed. What I mean by that is that you just need to have a plan. And when you have a plan, then you have direction, guidance, you have your North Star, and so I call that also with my clients the emotional totem. And an emotional totem is basically something that you are so truly connected to, that when you do make changes in your life, that nothing will get in the way. Now, I always recommend that people have a couple of emotional totems, for example, because sometimes certain things might come up that might not really hit that thorn that needs to be reminded, that needs to remind you, like, hey, this is what you're doing this for. So sometimes my clients will say, well, it's my son. Well, I get that. I totally get that. So kind of like for me with Ayana, super important that I now know, with the education that I have and understanding the mind and all of that, that right now she's a walking sponge of a subconscious brain. So everything that I do and say and the way that I react and respond, I am creating her future reality. So it is super important to me I have to be cautious, and sometimes I have to check myself. Like today, I've been very, very cautious. I've just been very aware of it. But at the other side of the token, there are things that are super important to me. Let's say like the success of my business growth or my physical appearance or something. You know what I mean? It just kind of depends on where I'm at. So those things will change. Now, those are nice side notes for you and nice tips. And I think that you can utilize those throughout this journey and through the next 5 weeks. And just wanted to share that. Now, let's talk about the emotional cycle of change. Let's get to the nitty gritty. So the fact of the matter is that I want to point out some things. Number one, when you make change, it's going to be uncomfortable. Accept that and embrace it. Number two, when you start to change, your friends and family sometimes don't want that because they don't want to experience you in a different way. Period. Sometimes you might have people that are your biggest fans, and sometimes you've got your anchors in your ass. And so just kind of be aware, because when you are trying to make changes, which is what you are doing right now with me, is you are taking action to make change in your life, that you're in a vulnerable state because you have your own thoughts that you're dealing with, and then you've got your so-called, I like to call them naysayers, but I don't mean that in a negative connotation. I just mean that in the sense that they don't want to experience you different. So they're kind of like, nah, don't do that. Wait for me. We'll do it together. You all know what I'm talking about. Trust me, I know. Trust me, I've been there many, many times. So when it comes to making change, just like right now we are in what is called the uninformed optimism stage. This is day 2 of 35 days together, right? So your dopamine neurotransmitters are super excited. And let me tell you, sometimes people are addicted to always starting over because they like that feeling of that, oh, I'm starting something new. So that's something you should be aware of as well. Okay. So right now you're in that dopamine high. You're in the uninformed optimism phase. And what I mean by that is you don't know, you haven't felt any consequences just yet. You haven't felt that you haven't been put in that position of temptation perhaps, or maybe you have, or you haven't really been in the position of feeling those emotions of, is this really worth it? Was I really that bad off? I don't know. Maybe I'll just wait. Yeah, I just want to enjoy myself. Yeah, I don't even want to deal. It's just going to stress me out even more. I'm just going to wait. You know what? Let's just wait till the first of the year or the first of the month or next Monday. The whole, you know what I'm saying? It's that whole vicious cycle, right? So I'm going to show you a little diagram that I have. And if you have watched my live on this before, I want you to embrace watching and soaking this in again, because you cannot hear something too much. You cannot ever have that mindset of, I already know that. Okay. You always want to be like, oh, I know this. I want to hear this again, because there could be something different that I take away out of this. Okay. Kind of like when you watch a movie and you're like, oh my God, I just caught that. Like I've watched Dory 10 million times, right? And I'm like, oh my God, I never realized that she said that, and I hear something new almost every time. Okay, so this is my beautiful drawing of a diagram, okay? So right now, this is where we are. This is the uninformed optimism. Everything is happy. You haven't felt any kind of consequence of your change. And what I mean by that is, when I say consequence, is that you haven't felt anything negative yet. Nothing has really gotten in your way. It's still so new and exciting. Okay, so this is where we are. So now, usually by the end of maybe between day 3 and 5 is when people start to, you start to come down here, and this is where you go down this slope here, okay? And this is where you start to feel like I call it it's the informed pessimism. And this is where you start to question, is this really worth it, okay? Now, at the end of the day, I want to share with you this. This might seem very familiar to you, because this is where most people live their life, right here. They start something, then they stop the moment that they get uncomfortable. And I put hallway here because this is the uncomfortable hallway that you need to walk through in order to really start to feel the benefits. And we're going to talk about this in a moment. So if you are somebody that is constantly starting something and quitting and starting something and quitting and starting something and quitting, that is where you are living. And the most of the world does until it's brought to your attention. And then you can kind of say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've been living in that slippery slope all these years. Okay. Trust me, I did it forever. And then once it was brought to my attention, I was like, oh my God, like, thank you. Now I know this, kind of like self-destructive slippery slope. And for some of my clients, this is actually one of their totems. They keep that in their mind. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. So during this 5-week challenge, as I had mentioned a few times in emails and also in comments in this group, the fact that the method to my madness is to help you understand and realize, I know that the ultimate goal for 99.9% people doing this is weight loss. However, you must understand that in order to be successful, you need to also pay attention to your lifestyle habits. Your lifestyle habits ultimately affect your hormones, and your hormones ultimately affect your weight loss. Trust me, calories do matter, but hormones trump that big time, okay? Hence the reason one of your tasks this week is not hitting the snooze button. Why? Because it's extremely stressful on your body. And it's a time waster. Let's just face it. It is so stressful. I live with a snoozer and it drives me insane. And he tried before because he's always so afraid that he's going to, wake up late and all that stuff. But it creates a stress within myself because I have to hear that, within 10 or 15 minutes. However, I just try to make sure that I get my quality sleep to offset that. Does that make sense? Okay, so you want to really try to make sure that your sleep is good quality, the best that you possibly can. We could talk about sleep in we could talk about sleep and stress in a whole other live, actually. We got plenty of room. We've got 14 more to go, right? Okay, so back to the 5 steps, because there's basically 5 steps to this process. So here we are. Okay, so let me just share this with you. There were 98 people that opted in to this challenge. I am hoping and praying hard, seriously, that all 98 make it through to the end of the 5 weeks. That is my goal, because I want you to be so educated and so informed that when you think that you're like, oh, I don't know, do I really want to do this? Oh, I'm kind of sick of it. Yeah, then you think of this, that you visualize this bell, in other words, this bell curve, because that's really what that is, right? Okay, so the positive part, okay, I got to look at my notes because I always forget what they're all called. Okay, so we got the uninformed optimism. This is where your dopamine is going crazy and you're excited and you haven't, felt any negatives yet. Then you go into the informed pessimism, and this is where you have awareness of, okay, I'm making change. Not so sure if I like the discomfort of it. Is it really worth it? Do I really want to stick with it? Is this going to really pay off? This is where your impatience comes in, and this is where your what's the word? Instant gratification comes in. This is where you're thinking, oh, there's got to be a better way, and there's not. If you haven't figured that out yet. Okay, then you have your uncomfortable hallway. Okay, now this is the hallway that I am trying to lead you through. This is the hallway of discomfort. Now, I learned this term from Tony Robbins. I think he talked about the uncomfortable hallways in I Am Not Your Guru. If you haven't watched I'm Not Your Guru, from Tony Robbins. Set aside 2 hours. You can find it on YouTube and or Netflix. Get your tissues and get ready to get your life changed, because that was probably one of the most inspiring things that I had ever watched 2 years ago. I really needed it at that time. It was really something that really uplifted me, and he's just amazing anyway. So this is where you need to hang in there until you can get through this uncomfortable hallway. You know what I'm talking about. You've been here time and time and time again. Okay, this is kind of like, whether it be something physical, whether it be something that you thought you could never ever do. Ever, you know, so kind of like my experiences lately, I've been very transparent about my journey with alcohol. I would not call me an alcoholic. I was not like a daily drinker or anything like that, but I've not had a very good relationship with it for many, many years. And so when I experience things for the first time, for example, when I went to the Lions game and I didn't get all messy like I normally would have in the past, or when I went to the Miranda Lambert concert. These are huge milestones. Like, these are things that I thought would be uncomfortable. They're not uncomfortable anymore, but when I tried to do it in the past, I felt very uncomfortable. So what did I do? I backed up. I was like, nope, I'm not ready for this. But now that I've walked through the uncomfortable hallway, and I realize, like, you know what, that's not so bad. And holy shit, that feels really good to do that. And oh my God, I don't have a hangover for the first time on Black Friday. You know what I mean? Like, just little wins like that. And so when you start to feel this is where it gets uncomfortable, but you start to feel the benefits of this hard work that you're putting in and the time. So that's when you get that hopeful realism going on. And then you start to, what's it called next is informed optimism, meaning that you understand the consequences of your cycle, of the change that you're going through, that you understand, the hard work that you put in. You have this greater awareness, like I said, example of myself, with my whole drinking thing. It's taken me over 2 years. I mean, let's say many, many years, but let's say 2 years to actually, okay, we're getting better. Okay, we're getting better. Oh, we slipped back. Okay, we're getting better. You know what I'm saying? And now there's more consistency to it, because I feel that I was in this little hallway here for quite some time. So let's just say this was a 2-year hallway, and that's okay, right? It's totally fine. And I'm hoping, I mean, let's say it's your weight loss journey, everybody's journey is different, and it depends on where you're at in your life as far as like where you're going and all of that. And so with that said, if you've been following me, or maybe you've never even heard of me before, but if you've been following me and I talk about that damn wagon, when people talk about, I'm on the wagon, I'm off the wagon, I'm on the wagon, I'm off the wagon. And that is another piece of my mission, which is to help you get rid of that all or nothing mindset, which is, oh, I had a piece of pizza, I screwed up, now I ruined everything. That's it. Forget it. I'll just start over on Monday. I fell off the wagon. Okay, so that's not normal. Real life is not about perfection. Real life is about understanding when you have these behaviors come up, why they come up, and acknowledging, right? And understanding and getting to know and understand your behaviors. And so that's what this whole 5-week challenge is also about, is to help you to see when these things are popping up and when they occur, and what are your triggers, and maybe there are people or places or things or smells that you need to recognize and say, okay, gosh, that was a total trigger for me. I didn't expect that. And so this is really all about you learning more about yourself and understanding, the why and all of that. So then once we get over here, see, there's another smiley face. This is where the reward completion is. So basically that is when we all have, or we can all think of somebody, for example, that we knew where they started in their journey. And they never gave up. They were relentless with their path. They were really consistent. And maybe they did have some setbacks, but throughout the journey, they were still plugging away, moving forward. They weren't constantly starting over with this diet and that diet and going here and trying that. And that person, we all know that there's that person, like, oh, there she goes again. She's trying something new. Oh, Lord, but there is sometimes, and I pray for this for people too, that, oh, I just hope that they find the thing that lights their fire and the thing that really gets them over that hump and, through that hallway and over to that other side. And that's when people's lives really alter. Fortunately, through my career, through the type of career that I have had as a personal trainer, in the industry for over 25 years, I've seen lives transform and I've seen them go back and move forward. It's like a slingshot. Okay. You have to go through those moments of setbacks. They're not failures. It's just slight setback. But if you think about it, a slingshot, you get pulled back in order to be catapulted forward. So when you think of, when your mind goes to tell you like, oh, I screwed up, I didn't, I hit my snooze button, that's it, it's over, I'll just start over next week. Just don't think of it like that. Just like, okay, tomorrow's another day, I'll just be more aware of my situation, what have you. But back to what I was saying is how many times when you see that person kind of get through that hallway, you see that they completely change everything. Sometimes they change careers. Sometimes they get divorced. Sometimes, you know what I mean? Like they completely transform. It's like this whole new world opens up for them because they have allowed themselves to go through the discomforts of that hallway. They have allowed themselves to embrace that change. They have also gone through this whole process of, sometimes their friends and family not being super supportive because of the change that has occurred. You know what I'm saying? And so I just want you to hang tight. I want you to remember this chart or this drawing, this little drawing over here. I want you to just kind of remember that. Actually, what I can do in the group, you know what I'll do? I'll email it to you. I'll email it to those that have opted in. I'll email you I believe that I have a chart that actually has that. And then maybe that's something that you can print and maybe put up so that you have a visual. So I hope all of that makes sense to you. I am just now looking at the comments. So I'm on my laptop, which has been great for me because I am somebody has shiny ball syndrome. And if I see comments and I get off track and then I go in this big fat circle and my computer, it only shows so many comments until I scroll. So I hope that was informative to you. Let me just check out these comments really quick. If there's a question that you want to ask, please do right now, and then we'll just wrap it up. And this will be, if you're in the challenge, then this will be your live for the week. But please feel free to make sure, that you jump on the other ones if you found this educational. If you find that you're like, gosh, what else can I learn? Which is the whole point of this. Like I said, education drives compliance. That is something that I had learned from my mentor. And those words really resonated with me. And I was like, yes. And you know what the cool thing is I love to teach. There's nothing that lights my fire more than teaching. And going live and teaching you is lighting my fire, right? Okay. So, let's see here. Okay, good. All right. So Amanda said hello. Marian says hi. Hi, Cal. Love your knowledge. Thank you, Amanda. And then Amanda says, haha, me too. And you're so welcome, Michelle. Okay, so if any questions come up in the meantime, please feel free to comment. If you are watching this as the replay, just hit hashtag. Whoa. I don't know if you can see, but my eyes are red. I'm actually kind of tired. I didn't get the best sleep last night. But hit the hashtag replay and then I'll know that you've seen it. However, as you know, as part of the challenge, you have a chart. And each day you'll just check off your what you've done. And then at the bottom, you have, just write which live you attended and what your biggest takeaways were. And that's it. Okay. So have a great night. Let's pray for some good sleep. I'd actually, Ayanna sleeps really well. But it was just last night, I just did not get the best sleep. So have a wonderful night. Don't hit the snooze button in the morning, and I will talk to you tomorrow.